We are so over. Fine by me. Y-O-U-R. Why are you going to something that you can't or control? Take a shoulder, take a toe. All game to my own. If I'm not going home, because it doesn't have that. And it is a big deal. Welcome to the planet Earth.
We have some talk about that.
I can change reality. Don't answer me. And finally, they took my kid from me. Yeah, I can kill
what did I do? I was sleeping.
Yeah, I can kill a troll or two.
I need some fucking hands in me.
Say it, you're crazy, or you can't get something that you can't escape. Take it home. Take another home. Getting old. I'm growing old. I'm growing old. Wondering what because I heard. Welcome to my everyday world. I will no longer be a transistor. I can change reality. They took my kid from me, yeah, I could kill a troll or two. They took my cat, will no longer be a casualty. Gradually, I can change reality, fatality, don't pass to me, and finally, they took my kid from me, yeah, I can kill a troll or two. Shut your fucking mouth and way down, take your way down south and we can see what I'm about. But I guess it will find out. I guess it will find out. Shut your fucking mouth, stand back. Way down, shut your fucking mouth and take your way down south and we can see what I'm about. I guess it's always right. I guess it will find out. Is he the berry? By me, while you are is yours.
Did I go on my feet? Why down? Not me. Oh God. Blind self.
Baby, like that is not a nice thing. Recognize the ice king. See the difference in the wings. Find and the light. But in the sun, not the fucking ice king. That is not a nice thing. Recognize the ice king. Baby, like that is not a nice king. Recognize the ice king. See the by candlelight. But I'm the sun, not the fucking ice king. Not the rain, ice king. Recognize the ice king. Always on the run, lonely one. Mistakes me for another. But I said that I'm the nice king. I said it ever so nicely. I could be the nice king. I could be the nice king. That is not the nice king. All of the girls of the eyes of the girls who serve about the nice king. But I want the nice king, the nice king. I know that the sun, the nice king. Recognize the ice king. I'm ready to one. Come and beg me freely. Keep calling me the nice king. Nice king. Ooh. You and I, we are like the earth and sky.
We're on the track.
We are one. Next challenge. Ain't it true though?
You good, Sean? I don't know why I even thought about getting back together with you. We are so over.
Fine by me.
By the way, Y-O-U-R means you. Y-O-U-R
Something that you can't just say or control. Take a shoulder, take control. Walking to my goal. I'm not going home because it doesn't have to happen. And one is a big deal. Welcome to planet Earth. I will no longer be a casualty. Gradually, I can change reality. Mentality don't pester me. And finally, they took my kid from me. Yeah, I can kill a troll or two. Fine by me. Yeah, I can kill a troll or two. I can kill a troll or two. Say up your case before you say up something that you can't say, something that you can't escape. Take a troll, take another pain, I'm getting old. I'm growing old, I'm growing old. And wondering what you heard. Welcome to my everywhere. I will no longer be a tragedy. Gradually, I can change reality. They took my kid from me, yeah, I could kill a troll or two. They took my kid, I will no longer be a casualty. Gradually, I can change reality, mentality, don't pass through me. And finally, they took my kid from me, yeah, I can kill a troll or two. Shut your fucking mouth and make your way on top and see what I'm about. It's so fun, I guess it will find out. Shut your fucking mouth, get that way. Shut your fucking mouth and make your way on top and we can see what I'm about. It's always right, I guess we'll find out. Is he hilarious? You good, Sean? I don't know why I even thought about getting back together with you. We are so over. Fine by me. By the way, Y-O-U-R means you. Y-O-U-R something that you can't just say or control. Take a shoulder, take control. Walking to my goal. I'm not going home because it doesn't have to happen. And one is a big deal. Welcome to planet Earth. I will no longer be a casualty. Gradually, I can change reality. Mentality don't pester me. And finally, they took my kid from me. Yeah, I can kill a troll or two. Fine by me. Yeah, I can kill a troll or two. I can kill a troll or two. Say up your case before you say up something that you can't say, something that you can't escape. Take a troll, take another pain, I'm getting old. I'm growing old, I'm growing old. And wondering what you heard. Welcome to my everywhere. I will no longer be a tragedy. Gradually, I can change reality. They took my kid from me, yeah, I could kill a troll or two. They took my kid, I will no longer be a casualty. Gradually, I can change reality, mentality, she walked past me and finally they took my kid from me. Yeah, I'm a troll, temporary shut your fucking mouth and make your way on top and wait to see what I'm about. But I guess it was fun. I guess it will find out. Shut your fucking mouth. Get that way on. Shut your fucking mouth and make your way on top and wait to see what I'm about. It's wasn't always right. I guess I will find out. Is he illiterate? While you are please you. While you are you are a petty man. Petty.
Stop, Axel. I noticed you. Chapter 16. Damn, my skin is dry. Just like, don't look at it. Moisturizer. Alright, chapter fucking 16 is going to begin at minute 13. Oh, I find moisturizer. As a regular thing. Regularity, perhaps. All right. You awake? Asked Scat. For a moment, Eve Johnson wasn't sure. When she closed her eyes earlier to grab a nap, Scat's van was just pulling out of the hot, dirty congestion of Boston. Opening her tired eyes now, she felt as though she'd entered a New England dream, one she didn't want to wake from. Stately colonial homes stood along tree-lined streets like proud old women, their white picket fences flashing toothy smiles of welcome. Red, white, and blue banners fluttered cheerful hellos from old-fashioned lampposts, and the doors of the quaint little shops and eateries seemed thrown open just for her. The busy little harbor was crowded with bobbing boats and snow-white sails. The baseball field was packed with players of all ages, and over at the town green, families of all races were spreading their blankets next to each other to enjoy a July 4th concert. Scat, I think I must be dreaming. Oh my God. I'm self-conscious about this fucking angle because I don't feel well and I don't like this angle. It makes me look 30. Listen, I'm dirty. Okay, whatever. Sorry about this. I suck. Mm, Okay. Scat, I think I must be dreaming. You look awake, but this town, it's unbelievably perfect. Ain't it though? Scat agreed as he turned down another tree lined street, this one with a white steepled church on the corner. Eve closed her eyes and breathed in the tang of the salt sea. It felt cool and fresh and cleansing. I could live here. Oh, it says that down. I could live here for the rest of my life, she whispered. Scat Perkins laughed. I think the Harmony Country Club only wants us for one night, honey, but I'll see what I can do. Scat's band wasn't scheduled to play until 8 o'clock, but he'd wanted it a few hours to set up, rehearse, and relax. When he picked Eve up, she grumbled about here. She had to admit that the little town's cheerfulness lifted her troubled spirits. She knew, of course, why the Blue Notes band had gotten this high paying gig in the first place. According to Scat, Julian Crane had suggested he drop Julian's name with the Harmony Country Club's party planners. Knowing that had given Eve an added reason to anticipate this singing gig. This was her chance to confront Julian. Almost 5 weeks had gone by without so much as a visit or a phone call, just a cryptic note that said he was wrapped up in some important family business for the summer, but that he'd see her again soon. What the hell does soon mean to Julian Crane? Eve wanted to know. Over and over, she had rung his Boston apartment, the only phone number he'd given her, but there was never an answer from Julian, just an answering service. And 2 weeks ago, he'd even disconnected that. Eve wanted an explanation. Julian owed her one. And now that she was here in his hometown, she intended to get one before this day was through. Well, Fluffy, here we are again. Another Independence Day celebration in good old Harmony, USA. How many have I been to now? 200 or so? Of course, we can't count the first one. No one in these parts even knew the founding fathers had declared independence until July 5th. Holding Fluffy's oh, that excited. Holding Fluffy's red rhinestone leash, Harmony's resident seductress of the supernatural strode across the chaotic town green with her cat trotting happily beside her. And speaking of those founding fathers, I really cannot help but recall what a charmer Benji Franklin was. Not much in the looks department, I grant you, Fluffy, but the man certainly knew how to warm up a girl on a feather mattress. Martini. Tabby often admits she's a few hundred years old, but that's just girlish vanity talking. She's not nearly so young. The truth is, Tabitha's got more mileage on her than a NASA space probe. Sleeping with Benjamin Franklin is nothing. You want dirt? When she really lets her hair down, she talks about what a party animal Genghis Khan is. Now that's old. As she moved through the crowd, Tabitha Lennox stepped around the patchwork of blankets, quilts, and old tablecloths that littered the lawn. Every Harmony family seemed to have turned out for the free concert. Unfortunately, they'd all brought their annoying frisbee throwing offspring, who to her looked more like a hostile tribe of unruly piggins than the sons and daughters of the town's residents. Ducking one of the wildly thrown plastic discs, the sorceress headed for a nearby bench to take cover with her sweet natured cat. Sweet natured? Ha! Timmy finds it laughable that Tabby would describe her devil cat Fluffy in such glowing terms, not to mention speak to the lame-brained animal as if it cared about a word she said. Of course, Tabby had yet to sow modern-day Timmy. So what choice did she have but to confide her thoughts to that nasty little pup of prickly clawed fur? Oh, look, Fluffy. There's Martin Fitzgerald with his wife Pilar and their two boys Antonio and Luis, and Chief Bennett and his wife Margaret and his boys picnicking with Reggie Russell and his son TC. Isn't it a shame that the chief's eldest son Sam is missing all of this? Said the sorceress with a little cackle. But of course, you know I can't take credit for that little situation. My spells over Ivy's father and Alistair Crane are working out just perfectly. Meow. Tabitha's cat yawned. Good idea, Fluffy. I'm hungry too. Let us both get a nice snack. Lunch came specially delivered, floating nicely away from the Bennett's picnic basket. 3 pieces of homemade fried chicken and a slice of chocolate cake. Look, Fluffy, it's Catherine Crane chatting with Pamela Osborne, remarked Tabby as she finished licking her fingers free of chicken grease. But where is Catherine's daughter, Sheridan? The next moment, her eyes spotted the little girl just a few feet away from her mother, playing on a patch of green lawn with a small red ball. Ah, the perfect lure, she murmured, then crooked her finger. Instantly, the red ball rolled away from the 2-year-old. With a quickly murmured second spell, Tabby made sure Catherine Crane would overlook her young daughter, trotting after the red ball as it rolled across the town green. Funny lady! Funny lady! Squealed the golden haired child when she found the ball at Tabby's feet. Yes, dear, you have no idea. The little girl laughed as the funny lady picked her up. The red ball was instantly forgotten, dropping to the ground and bouncing away as the child reached instead for a new object of desire, the pretty sparkling crystal that hung from the funny lady's neck. As Sheridan's tiny fingers closed around the stone, Tabitha felt a warm energy flow through her, and she began to witness some very entertaining visions. Well, well, Fluffy, what do I see here? Splendid lights flashed through Tabby's mind, memories upon memories, a stockpile too extensive to have come from one little 2-year-old girl. At record speed, the vision slipped past too fast for the sorceress to pick up any significant detail. Hell's bells, Fluffy, I'm onto something here. But what? With a deep breath, she concentrated her psychic powers and was gradually able to slow the girl's subconscious memories to a point where she could read some of the visions more clearly. There were the expected images of her mother, Catherine, the little nursery in the Crane Mansion, her favorite stuffed animal hugged up close to her chin, but then the pictures began to shift and change. And Tabby began to see visions from another life. Here it comes, Fluffy. Will you look at this? Our little Sheridan has lived out quite an interesting collection of lifetimes, and some of them right here in Harmony, as a crane. Tabby tried to get some coherent details from these lifetimes, the sort of juicy tidbits she could make valuable use of in her future meddlings with the girl and the cranes. But the only lifetime she could get any sort of psychic hold on was the one connected to the anniversary of this day, America's Independence Day. Sarah, murmured Tabitha, 200 years ago, Sheridan's name was Sarah Crane, and it seems she became involved with another Harmony soul. The little boy playing across the lawn right now with his family. Little Luis Lopez Fitzgerald. But back then his name was Luke. Luke Fitzgerald. Yes, I remember Sarah now. And some of this tale. Oh, this should be entertaining to relive. So why don't you show it to me, little Sheridan? The sorceress whispered into the little girl's mind. Let me see what you saw. Feel what you felt all those many years ago. Dear reader, if you would like to see what Tabby saw in Sheridan Crane's mind, and take a revealing trip back in time to her past life with Luis Lopez Fitzgerald during the Revolutionary War, then you only need to turn to the Timmy Appendix Tim Tim Snuck In on page 317. Enjoy your trip. Timmy Appendix Sheridan Crane's past life with Luis Lopez Fitzgerald. Tabby's vision of the Revolution. July 5th, 1776. Sarah, what are you doing? Reading, Father. Sarah Crane stopped the movements of the rocking chair and held up the book in her hands so that her father could read its title. Fancy Stitchery, he read aloud, standing in the doorway of the Crane Library. Good. 'Tis a proper book for a young lady. No more of that other nonsense, do you hear? Yes, Father. Our guests have arrived. Come at once to greet them. 19-year-old Sarah Crane nodded obediently at Alfred Crane as he turned haughtily on his imported English heel, and left the library. Then she closed the covers of the stitchery book, making sure Thomas Paine's Common Sense was well hidden inside. Thomas Paine's Common Sense. See, I've been reading Common Sense by Thomas Paine. Some people say that I'm intense or some insane. I don't know, but I'm gonna make them include women in the sequel. Yo, that bitch is beautiful and amazing. She's not a bitch. She's an incredible fucking person. And I have really bad grammar. I cuss like a sailor, and I am a motherfucking United States veteran. The sun never shined on a cause of greater worth, Sarah quoted in a whisper. Her father had been furious last week when he caught her openly reading Mr. Paine's beautifully written treatise, a 50-page pamphlet that called Americans to declare their independence from Britain. He'd ripped it to shreds in front of her, calling it a traitorous bilge. Sarah had been forced to borrow this copy from a middle-aged woman in her spinning bee. The spinster, Miss Tabitha Lennox, had a bit of an eccentric, flighty nature, except when it came to her distaste for the British. And on that subject, Sarah and Tabitha agreed completely. For well over a year now, the bee had been meeting 3 days a week to spin cloth for the town poor, whose numbers had been increasing at an alarming rate since the British began occupying Harmony 18 months ago. Sarah, are you perhaps wondering, dear reader, why Tabby was notary? Timmy found the answer in Tabby's diaries. For a solid year, Tabby was forced to house and feed two British soldiers in her spare bedrooms. They not only ate her out of house and home, but also made it virtually impossible for her to cast spells, conjure spirits, or do almost any scrying with their suspicious little soldier eyes always about. Hell's bells, she wrote in early 1776. I am less concerned they would jail me as a witch than hang me as a patriot. And all along, while these British were sucking the townspeople of Harmony dry of their stores, Alfred Crane, a descendant, by the way, of that no good magistrate William Ephraim Crane, who sentenced my princess to burn in 1693, had been working to convince the Redcoat officers that the people of Harmony wanted them in the town and would even defend them against the Continental Army. Well, that was just too much for Tabby. The first thing she did was slap a copy of Thomas Paine's Common Sense into the hands of Alfred's eldest child, Sarah. Tabby was hoping not only to gain an ally, but also to give an old Alfred apoplexy. Give old Alfred apoplexy. Apoplexy while doing it. And as for the next thing she did, well, just keep reading. At her father's impatient call, Sarah hurried through the carved oak door of the mansion's library. She had hoped to hide out for a good deal of this party, hearing the distant sounds of arriving guests, chattering voices, and clinking glasses. She had thought for a little while that she had succeeded, but clearly her father had other ideas. Sarah's delicate kid slippers made no sound as they padded along the hallway's thickly loomed rug. Finally, they reached the arched entryway to the drawing room and stopped dead. The wall of red before her sent her back a step in shock. She had expected a few British officers, but not this many. Gossamer skirts of pink, white, and pale blue rustled among the laughing, drinking redcoats. The overly dressed daughters of the area's wealthiest merchants had been escorted here by their mothers and fathers. Sarah recognized the Winthrops, the Osbornes, the Higginbottoms, the Motts, and a dozen other fine families. In shame, Sarah bit her bottom lip. She was just as overly dressed as these other young women, a pretty doll ready for display. For 3 days, her father had insisted that the maids attend to her, preparing her for this evening. Her face had been washed with buttermilk to make her skin soft. Lemon juice had been applied to her freckles to bleach them out. And this morning, her father had insisted she wear a white powdered wig over her beautiful yellow hair. Sarah had point blank refused, but the 3 hour standoff had finally ended with her father winning. Sarah, you must be dressed properly for this party, he'd argued. Do you not wish to make these British officers feel at home in Harmony, so they may continue to protect us from that rabble about the country who call themselves patriots? Father, have you not heard of the Boston Massacre? Innocent Americans slaughtered by British soldiers? Or the burning of homes at Lexington, or the harsh assaults and whippings and the two unjust hangings right here upon our own Harmony neighbors? Do not discuss politics, daughter. 'Tis not ladylike. But father, enough, Sarah. A crane always finds the advantage in a situation, and befriending these soldiers is far more agreeable a prospect than fighting them. Now, as for your attire, would you rather those officers come to our home and look down upon your simple colonial appearance? Sarah bristled at the idea of Redcoats looking down upon any colonial woman, so she obeyed her father's wishes. But now, as she forced herself to enter the large drawing room in her French gown, a delicate confection of dusty rose silk, Sarah wanted to scream. One of her garters was slipping. Her corset had definitely been tied too tightly. Her bosoms were practically exposed by the daring neckline, and she simply hated the bulky hip pads and layers of petticoats needed to give the proper bounce and movement to the skirt of the fashionable gown. Ah, here she is, her father announced as she moved to join him. He was decked out himself tonight in royal blue silk breeches and as fine a waistcoat and jacket as any European aristocrat. Beside him, Sarah's Aunt Jane smiled sweetly. You look lovely, dear girl, she whispered. Now smile at the officers. When Sarah's mother had died of fever 10 years before, her mother's sister Jane had come to live with them to help raise Sarah and her younger brother and sister. It was no surprise that Alfred had married Jane within a year. This was a common enough occurrence in other families. Jane was a kind woman, but Sarah was often vexed that Jane didn't wish to think beyond what father told her to. Sarah mustered a half smile at four tall, uniformed men, a colonel, a major, and two lieutenants, and tried not to cringe as they looked her up and down, then settled their gazes on her immodestly exposed bosom. Good evening, gentlemen, Sarah pronounced with a practiced air of crane disdain, while trying her best to ignore the hot flush of embarrassment at having four pairs of male eyes staring openly at her barely covered breasts. The officers wished her good evening, and their expressions turned more respectful, yet a possessive look remained. It unsettled Sarah. Please, excuse me, she said quickly, but I see my girlfriends across the room and I should like to say hello. With barely a curtsy, she turned and fled. Drink, miss? Asked one of the house servants 30 minutes later. Sarah nodded and removed the crystal goblet of the newly imported French wine from the engraved silver tray. She would need the drink to get through this horrid evening. She tried to engage her girlfriend in conversation, but every last one of the pampered heiresses was more interested in entertaining the damn redcoats. God, this is long. I'm not going to read all this. I'm going to pause. I need to pause. I'll be back for page 320. Yeah, I'll let you know. Oh, baby, baby. I had a jump on me in my bones. You indeed took over my soul. All things in my home. It's not back home. Because it doesn't have to happen. And wondering is a big deal. Welcome to planet Earth. I will no longer be a casualty. I can change reality. Vitality don't pester me. And finally, they took my kid from me. Yeah, I can kill a troll or two. Bye bye me. Yeah, I can kill a troll or two. I can kill a troll or two. Stay up your face before you play up. Something that you can't see, something that you can't escape. Take it all over your soul. Take another page, and we're getting old. All the pain is growing cold. I've been growing cold and wondering what does I earn. Welcome to my Earth.
I will never be a kind. But I can change reality, but they took my kid from me. Yeah, I could kill a troll too. They took my cat. I will no longer be a casualty. Gradually, I can change reality, mentality. Don't pass me, and finally they took my kid from me. Yeah, I can kill a troll or two. Troll, 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 troll. Shut your fucking mouth and way down, make your way down south and we can see what I'm about. But I guess it's really fun, I guess it will find out. Shut your fucking mouth, get back. Shut your fucking mouth and make your way down south and we can see what I'm about. I guess it's always right, I guess we'll find out. Is he clever? While you are means you while you you are troll, you are a petty man. Petty. Baby, like that is not a nice king. Recognize the ice king. See the difference in the wings. I can't deny. But in the sun, that's the fucking ice king. That is not a nice king. Recognize the ice king. Baby, like that is not a nice king. Recognize the ice king. Ice king. I'm gonna continue on another video. So we're heading into chapter 17. Moving on to 17 in the next video. We're finding out about Sheridan Crane's past life. Love you guys.